Yo mensen, Mark hier en we zijn weer terug met een nieuwe video van, ja, eigenlijk een review. Ja, ik heb een kleine, nou het is geen review eigenlijk, het is een Q&A. Die heb ik gisteren opgenomen. Het duurt een klein half uurtje. Het is van de Nederlandse horrorfilm Jimmy. Met in de hoofdrollen natuurlijk, Rick Paul van Mullingen. Hij speelt Jimmy, dus degene die iedereen vermoordt. En dan hebben we Charlie Chan Derlet. Sonia Eiken. Er zijn er eigenlijk nog veel meer die in de rollen spelen. Dat is ook Thijs Boermans, Isa Hoes, Sarah Lunzorik, Michel Plantera, Sophie Oekwet, Alco Beemsterboer, Lieneke Rijksman, Piano Robano, Hem de Vlieger en Jort Knotter. Dat zijn de hoofdrollen die er vooral zijn. Ja, ik moest eventjes op een zijscherm kijken, want ik weet niet het uit mijn kop. En de regie ligt in handen van David-Jan Bronsgeest. Die is ook bij de Q&A. En de schrijver Tim Komen. Die is ook bij de Q&A. De Q&A is in het Engels. Dus ja, het is in het Engels gedaan. Omdat Imagine Film Festival, diegene die kon niet echt Nederlands. Een paar woordjes misschien. Maar ja, ook hoor je tijdens de Q&A wat Nederlandse woordjes. Want we wisten niet allemaal de vertaling naar het Engels wordt. Dus in ieder geval, veel plezier met deze Q&A.
It takes an army, man. There's such an army of people that you have to take on this path with you. I want to start a little bit with the short film. We're going to talk about the short film at any moment. If you think of something, just raise your hand and feel free to interrupt us. I'm just going to look like this so I can see you. So I revisited the short film this morning, and it's so good. If you haven't seen it, check out. It's on YouTube on Short of the Day, right? Short of the Week. It's even better. So tell us first, how did you come up? Why did you choose this kind of media that kills you, or media that channels spirits into a short film?
How did we come up with it? We were fascinated by true crime documentaries. In 2017, we just had Making a Murderer on Netflix, which was a huge hit. And then we kind of felt guilty that we were like looking at all these serial killers and we wanted them to be as sick as fucking possible. So we talked to each other like, hey, but now we're seeing them as entertainment, we are idolizing them. Isn't that a bad thing? And why is the whole world doing this? And why are we making so much money out of it? So then we were thinking maybe we should come up with a nice, cool thematic for a short film, which means if you listen to a serial killer, at one point he can hear you too, and you become the next victim. So some redemption in the story. That's how we started.
Yeah, but then Don't Fuck With Cats came out. And then at the end of Don't Fuck With Cats, which is really disturbing, but also really fascinating, it kind of was that thematic. So they turned to the camera at some point and they said, wow, did you enjoy this? If you enjoyed this documentary, you are quite sick, you know, if you like this thematic. So we were like, fuck, someone's not stole our idea or anything. I mean, it was completely unrelated, but someone was there first with something longer. So then with the feature film, we had a different thematic line, which is more about guilt, it's more about the revenge thing. It's also more about the sister dynamic and but also the rules of the slasher, which we really wanted to sort of fuck with. And I mean, until Dilara, the sister, the younger sister, dies, you think that you're watching quite a standard horror movie, and then we sort of flip it upside down.
Yeah, I did not see coming the monster incest child, which just tells a lot about the society. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So why audio? Why was it about a podcast about sound that was like, okay, this is the right medium to tell the story?
Well, at the Film Academy you get taught something called the schaar van Wember. I don't really know what the English translation from that is, but it means that if your audio gets too far away from the image, then it doesn't match in your brain anymore. So I thought it's great to play with that in a horror movie, that you are listening to something and then you forget to look at something and then hopefully a jump scare can kick in. and it would be the best scare ever. So that's what we played with in the short film. However, we had like 4 months of post-production, no budget, which is great because everybody is just there in the studios working till whenever, and you just order pizzas and it's all passion and love. And this whole film we had to make in 6 months. So basically we had 2 months more than the short, which was quite another process, obviously, also in post, because we had only 5 weeks to do the sound of this film, which is incredibly short for such a.
But still, the sound is a really present element in the feature as well. Like maybe in a different way, because like we were saying outside, like you can watch someone listening to a podcast in a short film, but in a feature, like you need more actions and more difference. You have to develop the story further. And that jump from the short film to this version of the feature, it's like, what are the elements that you decided to keep from Meet Jimmy, the short, and then translate here, and which ones you decided to part ways with and said, like, actually, I think this is where we should go?
I think what really works in the short film is the moment where he starts talking to her. So we always knew, okay, there has to be that moment. But besides that, the short film has way more. I mean, I personally think that the short film works. The podcast element works better in the short film than in the feature film. But it's that's also because it's only about that 6 minutes. And here you tell so much more. You have to follow so many more storylines that we also thought we have to make it a little bit abstract. And also let's address the big elephant in the room. I was subtitling this version, and then I was subtitling it on a shorter, older version than you guys saw. So a little peek behind the curtain. The podcast parts were all a version before this one, and so you can see, like, even 1.5 weeks ago, we came walking out of the sound studio, and that's those final days. We were so stressed in the studio because we knew that the premiere was coming up and the movie had to be done. So we were changing last minute bits and pieces of the podcast, and that's why.
Yeah, but I also think the difference is when you, like, 6 minutes, it's nice as a concept. It's a podcast horror short, 6 minutes fun. But how do you do that in a feature film? Like, is it interesting to look at people listening, constantly?
Yeah.
And me personally, the first thing I said, we have to kill all the phones out of the movie. Otherwise, it's going to be a phone movie.
Yeah.
And I want it to be a fun slasher too. It has to be physical at one point.
I mean, it's cool that it evolved into, okay, let's make the story a little bit more complicated into, you know what, let's have fun with the movie. Let's, like, present straight on Dutch slasher with giallo vibes. And, like, we were talking earlier, that there's some a lot of, like, Italian horror from the 1970s, especially in the visual. So we can talk about the light, because something that was really cool from the beginning for me was like, oh, there's a lot of lights that are just there to bring color to the shot. Yeah. And in film school, you always thought, like, every source of light has to be justified within the narrative of the story. It has to exist. There has to be a reason for that light to be lighting that character. But here you said, like, justified. Screw that. Let's just make it look so cool that, like, what's the freaking point, right? We're making a slasher. We're having fun with a horror movie.
Yeah.
When was that moment for you that you said, like, screw it, let's just...
Well, with my DP, Aziz Adelemi, we had a discussion also about the short film, which was another DP, it was Jeroen Kiers, and we had a lot of comments like, oh, look at them trying to remake The Ring, and the colors of The Ring, and everything is The Ring. So horror, immediately when you make it like greenish, darkish, everybody thinks like, oh, you're copying The Grudge. So we were thinking, what could be nice here with this group of toxic girls? What could be other elements that we really loved in our own films that we grew up with? Then obviously one of the biggest, coolest films I think A24 ever made is Spring Breakers. So there was a nice inspiration to look at what did they do, and then we came up with the single source lighting, which is still, for instance, the Chinese waterfall, which I adore, because when I was a kid I was always in Chinese with my mother, and then we took like takeout food, and they had these Chinese waterfalls, and I thought these lights were so cool. So then we were thinking, that produces green light, why don't we make our whole room green, but only that source? So you use a single source, and then the whole thing can be adjustable. So it's cool lighting, but also it starts to get grittier and grittier towards the end, because it's the 9 circles of the hell, and Jim ends up in the 9th circle of the hell, which is the house of Edith, and that's completely red. So that's where we lose all the other elements, because the toxic group is gone.
Yeah, and the Chinese waterfall, by the way, is the thing that's hanging in the back. at the older sister's house. So when she's doing the laptop stuff,
Oh,
there's
There's
an
looks
image.
like it's in the cabinets.
Yes, yeah, it's in the cabinets. Yeah, so that's that single source lighting. So a single source in the room where the light comes from. That's what I mean, as a director in DP Aziz, they used a lot to light. Yeah.
What's wonderful, like the vibe, how it changes from being like purple and neon and really fun, brave at the beginning towards the gritty, and then you're at the basement, which kind of reminds me of the vibe of this French. Well, it's not a French movie, but it's in the Paris catacombs, As Above, So Below. But it has that like feeling that you're in hell.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like Hellraiser, you know, that it's hell on earth.
Yeah.
And when did you decide to turn Jimmy from a voice into a physical form? And what are the rules that you built for him? Because he seems to be like a spirit, but then he has like some physical abilities. Like, what are the rules that you built for him?
Yeah, we always knew, like, I'm a big fan of Halloween, the original, well, also the remake I really like. And it's the way that Michael Myers is always a physical force that you see, and he comes for you, and he's there. That's the first rule that we made, was the moment that you listen to him, you start seeing him, and not other people, but you start seeing him. But he's there physically, and he can be there at all moments, so he can jump at you from whenever he wants. And of course he chooses to not do that in the Dixie, but for the rest he comes with these girls. But we also had to sort of flip that around and be like, okay, well, how can you then defeat him? And it's not to make him deaf or something, it's to make your own, well, as you can see at the end of the movie, where you can make him disappear. But it's to take away his power. His power is his voice. That's what we're all so scared of, and what we're all fascinated by. So if you take that away, then he disappears as well. Yeah, that's what's that.
It's like a very sweet metaphor to not listen to.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody have a question before I can just keep going? And I need someone to interrupt me sometimes to. Okay. All right.
Another, by the way, another rule which is may not be completely clear. I mean, I had the question earlier today. In the bowling alley where she pulls out the head of Jennifer, that's the girl from the opening scene. Which you can kind of see at the skirt, the geruite skirt. Is that what we want to do there was, like, you can not only see him, but you also see his victims. And that's why at the end, Mariam, the sister, sees her younger sister, and then it sort of makes sense. But it's something that is now sort of in the movie, because the narrative is so tight and there's no fat in it.
And it's also super difficult in Dutch to be explanatory, because I think already in the film sometimes he mentions podcast over and over, and then you're in editing and it has to be clear, and these kind of rules, like, how do you get them across with? Sometimes it's so difficult to, and it's very interesting because it's our first feature film, to really learn and grow from that, like to see, okay, so we need a scene, but how can it not be explanatory?
Yeah.
Which I always kind of hate in horror movies, when you have that scene where you're like, okay, now they're going to explain the whole backstory and we need to sit through this.
The exposition, though.
Yeah, which I think Chloe, the girl with the hair up and then she kills herself, does insanely well. I think she was amazing.
Messed up.
Yeah, but that's just like, because there was no time and she just did that in 2 takes. But I thought it was amazing.
She killed herself.
Sorry?
She killed herself.
Yeah, she killed herself. Yeah, she also wanted to travel the 9 circles of hell, because she's a prisoner there as well. So she wanted to do the same. And that was also in the backstory. If you like the blood goes on the wall painting, then you go through it and you can come out at the other end. So maybe the sequel is her. I mean, in my head, it's maybe it's called Chloe.
Yeah.
No, if we can ever make a sequel, we don't know. I mean, you never know. Right?
I mean, your minds were working on this story for so long.
Yeah.
That I'm pretty sure that you built the world and the rules like very flawlessly, and then having to translate those into 90 pages or 85 pages.
Yeah, and we had the first cut of the movie after shooting, although it was only 15 days of shooting that we did in April. The first cut was 2 hours, so it was but it was way too long, and then we had to cut it down to something way tighter, and
here we are. Tight, make it snappy.
Yeah.
For the TikTok generation, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, I've got one question about the look of the killer. Like, normally in slashers, like you mentioned, Halloween, killer always wears a mask. Like Jimmy didn't have a mask. Was it a conscious choice, and why did you choose that?
Yeah, in the end it was. I mean, we did thought of masks, but then we thought he comes from hell, and he used to be obviously like the girls did this to him, so he used to be innocent and not very aware. And then when he comes back from hell, I wanted to make him evil and just with his own face. Also, we kind of when we do rehearsals, I have like several like takes of him just doing grins all the time, like constantly. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe more this, maybe more that. So we were searching for his final look, and yeah, I chose to just go for his face.
And also Rick Paul, because he's a meme speler, he's such a like a comedic actor who has such a great expression.
Yeah, he has a great face.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to use.
Yeah, don't put a mask on that. Like he can make his face quite creepy.
Yeah, there was a personal connection too, because people also ask like, what's the sleeve about? And when I was younger, I had an interaction with a child abductor, not really physically, but there was someone in the car who was honking at me and trying to get me. And then I looked through the window and I saw a guy sitting with his sleeves over his hands. So that never got out of my mind, and I was thinking like, I have to do something with that, and I was like, this is the guy.
It's like the most terrifying image in your head as a child.
That's the thing, you know, that you don't know what's in there, and I thought that's a creepy element.
I mean, what is filmmaking if not like kind of like printing your fears into, especially horror filmmaking?
Yeah.
But your deepest fears and just show it as like, hey, look, this is what I'm afraid of. I hope you're afraid of it too. You know. Anyone else has a question?
I don't understand the part where the girl, she's like cleaning the room, and the next scene is like she sees her boyfriend, and she's getting with him in the car, and after that she's cleaning the room again.
Yeah, she goes back in.
That's very sharp of you that you saw that. Yeah, we were struggling with that in edit. I remember. And we were struggling.
Yeah, we had to choose. Either it was a scene with the boyfriend, or there was another scene where she listened to Jimmy in a library, and then he called her in a very crazy phone booth, because it used to be a mental hospital as well in Hilo. So that's where we.
Hello.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Running through all the rooms. And it was super. But we have to choose, and then with this point, like how I see it now is that she goes back inside. So he like comes there with his brake. He teases her, and then she goes back inside.
Because they stepped in the car, so and they were like going away. So I thought she was not there anymore, and. Then she goes back there. Up again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's it is an editing thing. For me, it was like she goes on her break, he brings her back. But we didn't have.
You can explain it like that.
Yeah, we can explain it like that. But it's a thing. The thing is, I mean, to be honest, like that's not maybe it sounds like an excuse, but I mean, we had 15 days of shooting, which was every day another location. Maybe we're at one location.
It doesn't matter anyways. It's just like a thing that makes
no, it's a good question. No, that's a good point. And it's we didn't the sun was going down. We didn't have any time to. Always the fucking light.
When he introduced it, you already said also about the subtitles. And for me, like reading in English and listening to Dutch, I get like.
Yeah, I know.
Usually it's the other way around.
Listening
to English and reading to Dutch.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah.
Personally, I appreciate it because I usually get to miss a lot of Dutch films. Because I mean, I do understand Dutch, but if you have like 4 characters like fighting about something, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what they're fighting about anymore because it's just so many people. I mean, I think it's really cool that you're embracing expats to come see.
We're gonna have a better version of the subtitles.
I mean, trust me, we're all trying hard to learn Dutch, but it's freaking hard, man.
It is.
It's a complicated language. Yes, over there.
Yeah. So you have the murder in the cleaning, the car cleaning. What do you call it?
The auto was
the car wash.
Car wash.
The car wash. Yeah. And then but there it went really like. Maybe like a Dario Argento type thing, you know, because there was sort of no logic anymore.
In time, you mean?
In time, or I don't know. He's in the thing, and then the car stops, and then she comes to the car, and then he's not in there anymore, and then you see him sitting there with some kind of hose up his mouth, I guess. So, but I was sort of lost on the. Because you guys were talking about logic, and I had to. Well, there were some kind of a few logic things going on. So I had the feeling there you sort of let it go, or was there a...
Well, yeah, Jimmy does it with him off screen. Whatever you imagine with that, but he does it with him on screen, off screen, and then he puts him on the roll band, and then she sees him because she hears him, and that's the moment where his ingewanden gets sucked out.
His entrails.
It was his tongue. Yeah, it goes really quick. But I must say that scene for me, I also really wish I had a little bit more time there, because the same thing, like practically. But I think now we did it like this, we have an off-screen moment, and then after that we go back into the house with Mariam, and then also Bowie kind of plays as if she just left, but she got killed. So that was also a thing that I said to my editor, like, hey, what do we do with this? But then he thought it would be a nicer cut to just go back in time and just be with Mariam and Bowie there. I always, for me, I am in the vibe of the film, but I do understand what you're saying.
It gets to kind of like what she said about the logic of the edit, because it's slightly illogical. It gets this 70s feel, or like this exploitation vibe going on, which I think is interesting. That it's sort of like you said, too little time and just jumbled up and then sort of thrown together, and then you sort of get this.
Yeah, it almost becomes an abstract kind of order of things. And I think if you look at Argento, for example, Dario Argento, of course, is the father of Giallo, which is what we also were inspired by. I think there's a lot of stuff that he does where you can be like, oh yeah, this is something where the story takes a different turn, which you kind of don't expect, and maybe also it plays a little bit with the logic. But I also feel like it is kind of more of a vibe like Spring Breakers as well, where you kind of hopefully you guys like went in and didn't mind the logic too much. But it's always a big risk with a construction movie like this, because it's very much.
Yeah, and I also must say I'm not really a fan of people coming in like walking into doors and sitting on chairs, and you have a walk towards a couch, for instance. So I also like to speed some things up to also kind of just go into the fun. And maybe I could have showed him being dragged through the whole thing, but then again, I don't have the special effects to do Jimmy very specially to see him drag him like that. Cool enough. So we killed also a lot of things where Rick Paul did drag people somewhere, and I just looked at it and it didn't look great. So you're thinking like, yeah, I could put it, and then it makes more sense, but then maybe you also see a bit of the older Dutch horror mentality.
It's about the reveal of the kill. So you want to get to the kill, because you have the story and then you have these set pieces that are like the kills. And I know what you're saying, that you're like, okay, like when we're in kill mode, logic doesn't apply. We're just gonna make it look.
Her being on top of the car, being exposed, and then she just goes into him, and you see his grin for the first time in the film, where you really see him like smiling, and then I love that part. But for instance, there I cut away. We don't see him killing her. Because I thought the image of him like being there is almost like Dark Knight-y kind of epicness, like wow, here he is. And I think that was the most important thing of that scene. It's actually more about Jimmy than it's about the victims there. It's this empowering moment.
And why is it called showroom?
It is called showroom. If you go to a car wash, it's called showroom to get a special treatment for your car. I think one is called showroom.
I don't have a car.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but I was.
And she didn't know either. She thought it was carousel. So
it wasn't in the script. We said carousel. We were like, that's fucking
awesome. The car's gonna look so good. You can show it to your friends in your room.
Let me show the room over there.
But that also was very cool, because that scene was also inspired by sitting in the car and thinking this is a great place to do a horror scene. And then also there was a showroom option.
Being in the car is maybe one of the best imaginary scenes, because what he said, when the killer got at him, he stopped in the car. So that was the moment he got him, and then he got out on the
low point. That's true.
Okay, now I understand. It's just my complete lack of imagination with fucking over.
I mean, I've come to learn that Dutch people are quite literal.
But it's quite, because it's so interesting, Guido, because the thing is like, you wish now to say something like genius about, we don't show it and we do it off camera because it's in this, but actually, me and Aziz were there. and we were like, hey, we have to cancel this, and this. We have 2 minutes left. Where can we put Thijs? How can we share a look at him so at least it's her side of eyesight, you know? And then if she just looks to the right, then he sees her there. But it was a different location, obviously, because it was way further. And I was like, okay, I guess. And we just shoot it, and then hopefully you make it in time, which we never did, but it was interesting.
No, you're right. In my experience, okay, I guess it's the thing that is said the most in a film set. It's always like, okay, I guess, let's shoot it. You're always battling time. You're always battling light. You're always battling. It's such a chaotic process, which is what makes it so beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost unfair because we had 6 years to think about this idea. Because 6 years ago we started. You only had 6 months to make it. To make the movie at the end.
Yeah, but it's good that you knew it so well.
That's also fun. That's also fun.
Yeah, of course.
That's also the sport of it.
And where did you shoot the most?
The most
in Amsterdam. I think you shot something in the Cromotag, maybe.
No, not the Cromotag. No, we shot most in Amsterdam and around, and a little bit in Wormerveer, in Hilo one day. But it was all around this area. Because also also what of course takes time is to get a crew to like the other side of the country. So we found everything quite close. Yeah, and for example, the ending was shot in Fort Benoorde, which is a fortress down underground.
That's why,
Yeah, that was always very dusty.
It's very cool.
Very dark.
About the crew.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice.
It's very strong female cast. Yeah.
Yes.
And with Charlie-Ton Daaglet, she's lovely. But the other, like the group of Mean Girls, I mean, they were pretty young actresses, really good. I was really impressed. Where did you find them? Like, are they young and upcoming? Did you like who are these girls?
Yeah, so they're all on the toneelschool still.
Really? Wow.
School, yeah, and Richelle, I worked with a few. This is my fourth film with her. Sharon, who got killed. Who got killed? But I asked her like, hey, what's the next gen of like really cool actresses? And then she really came up with a list, and we did auditions at the production office, and I was super impressed.
Yeah.
I used to be very younger, also an actor, but I really was not on that level. I was like, wow, this is like what they do is just.
Yeah, they really sell it out. Yeah, they're incredible.
Yeah. And also in combination with the dialogues and the script, because normally Dutch film a lot of times. French. Which was really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate that. It's especially also, for example, Sophie, who's in the opening girl. She is now in GTST. She's like that's I think the only thing that she did so far. This is her first feature film role.
Then I'm gonna watch again.
Yeah, right. Well, we were also like, okay, you know what?
It's a lot of work.
It's GTST. It's a soap opera. We don't know. You know, is it gonna be?
No,
but she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Like she also in the flashbacks in the bowling. Yeah.
But I also think that it's a little soapy sometimes, but I think that really works.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I think it's
everybody's
the slasher genre a little bit.
Yeah, that everybody sort of says what they're feeling or something.
That's definitely true. And I mean, I think it fits the style of the movie. I mean, I was rewatching I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which is one of my personal favorites. And it's Solo, Brandy, and but that's also they also do a lot of like that kind of explaining, which you kind of you kind of take it as it is because it's such there's so much else going on. With,
what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Yeah, there you go.
Finally.
Wow.
No, I think the setting is pretty universal, so I kind of like it when I'm like, oh yes, this is definitely a Dutch movie. And my favorite detail was the Blokker logo on the knife. Washing machine. I was like, yes, I'm home. Was that like, okay, this is kind of funny? Maybe you weren't paying attention, or was it like a perverse product placement kind of deal?
I think they're gonna sue us, by the way. So
that's why we blocked one of the letters.
We blocked one of the letters. No, but what we did really do, because we made the short in English, and then we've been to America, and then we came back and we got the chance to make a Dutch movie, and we really said it has to really own Dutch culture. So the TBS klinieken, we also thought about what's our collective fear, and then we think, oh yeah, the TBS klinieken with the whole Anne Faber. So a lot of story elements came really out of true crimes from the Netherlands. And the Dixie, which is I think amazing, because well, I don't want to say I did that a lot of times, but I did it a lot of times, so I'm quite familiar with that. Yeah. So that's really cool. And then we called Dixie, and they were like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, slash on Dixie, let's go." We're like, okay. It was really good, you know, to own up to the real Dutch brands.
Yeah. But local we didn't call, and then let's see how
it's so inherently Dutch. It was really cool. Well, thank you so much, DJ and Tim. Thank you everybody. Go see it again. Go there. Buy another ticket.